Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Tournament Directors Guide podcast, and my guest today is Darryl Noel, who is the tournament director of a massive soccer tournament out in Michigan that takes place over Memorial Day weekend. That's the Canton Cup, and welcome to the show, Darryl. It's good to have you on.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's good to be here.
Excellent. Well, we usually start these little interviews by giving our guests an opportunity to introduce themselves. So just give us a brief overview of the Canton Cup, what it's all about, how many teams, how many fields, all that good stuff.
Sure.
But also tell us a little bit about you, how long you've been involved in it, and all that good stuff.
So, as you said, my name is Darryl Noel. I'm the tournament director for the Canton Cup. I've been involved with the tournament now for going on 10 years. I've been tournament director. This is my 5th year. The Canton Cup is a soccer tournament that is held in Canton, Michigan over Memorial Weekend. This is our 33rd year of the tournament. Last year we had 110 clubs bringing 650 teams to participate in the tournament. We drew teams from Pennsylvania, Illinois, Ohio, Indiana, Canada, mostly around Toronto area. And then also we do have teams come in from Scotland through an affiliated club that we have with them. We make sure that all of our games are scheduled for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. One of the things we find very important is that we have no games scheduled on Monday so that people can enjoy their holiday. With that, we have 5 venues, all within Canton, with 65 premium fields. Our tournament headquarters is at Independence Park, and we have 25 fields there.
So that's a big tournament. I mean, 625. There are not many tournaments out there that are attracting more teams and having that much of a logistical challenge. Talk to us a little bit about just how much work is involved and how you do that. That sounds like an enormous task to pull off.
Well, it's a year-round process for us to do. In fact, we took the month of June off of last year's tournament after the 2014. My committee, which is 100% volunteer, we got together back in July and we had a reflection of what things went well with the last tournament and what things that we wanted to change or improve. Each year we take a look at the past year's tournament and we try to make continuous improvements going forward. Our first meeting that we had to officially plan for this year was actually held last week, and we'll have monthly meetings all the way running up until the Cup.
And what kinds of things are you looking at in terms of sort of continual improvement? What are you thinking that perhaps this year is going to be different, is going to be better, is going to be...
We're looking this year at enhancing the overall experience for our guests. We do consider them guests because an important part for us is that the people that come join us feel that they're having memories created that will last a lifetime. So with part of that, one of the things that we're always looking at is how to be able to get information out quicker to the team. So we're looking into creation of different things, improving our website, improving a online app being created for also Google as well as for Apple products, to be able to get the scores to the people as quick as possible and get the information. We've all been at tournaments and we've all been at hit or misses with them, so we take our experiences and we say what is the best that we could do with all of our experience, and we try to address those each year on a different basis, and it just continually improves from there.
So what percentage of the teams that are coming in from out of town? Because I've got to believe that hotels and just accommodating that number of teams, particularly if a large portion of them are visiting from out of town, must be a big challenge for you.
Well, we have a really good partner that we use right now for the Canton Cup. Our hotel partner is Traveling Teams, and they have already blocked out over 4,000 rooms for that weekend. So we do have probably about 40% of our teams come, well, actually about 60% of our teams come from outside of the local area within 20 miles or so, and then the rest, we have about 40% which are even coming from out of the state.
So those are the ones that would need hotel rooms. The ones coming from outside the city but not necessarily that far away would typically commute for the games?
Generally within 25 miles or so you would have a commuter base, and then what we have is people coming from the other side of the state and from upper portions of lower Michigan. They have they get their hotel rooms, as well as people from Canada, Ohio, Indiana, etc.
So, do you get some kind of arrangement when you're working with traveling teams? There's a commission or some kind of a payment back to the club for every room night booked? Is that the arrangement?
There is, but the most important part is that I'm able to control the quality for the experience of the guests. One of the things that we have in our agreement is that their prices have to be competitive. So we give them a large volume of business. They make sure that the partner hotels that they have within their system maintain a level of quality and service for our guests. Again, it's each time that we have an opportunity to interact with our guests, that we want that to be a quality thing. We've all been to tournaments where the hotel arrangements haven't been the greatest. The tournament can be outstanding, but then your experience has been diminished because of, our partners. In that case, it would have been the hotel just really doesn't live up to what you would want for something to create lifetime memories.
Yeah, I think one of the things about the hotel is they've got to recognize why you're there. So you can't really get yourself into a hotel that doesn't have first-class laundry services, for example, since you're playing in a soccer tournament and it might
or breakfast in the morning.
Breakfast.
Many people want to make sure that their players are eating right before the breakfast, before the games. So we make sure that they have the correct facilities for food. One of the things we do is we do not have any partners with hotels that have outside entrances. So everything that we would have would be, everything that would have all inside entrances to the room. So no motels or things like that. We just feel that it's easier because we've always had kids and we always have to, watch them when you have outside entrances where anyone could come in. So we like to have that security for our guests.
Yeah, I think security is a huge issue when you're dealing with kids, and one of the things that I think some tournaments do is they actually put out a little fact sheet or a list of recommendations that parents and kids should make sure they're keeping an eye on. Make sure you don't leave the door open as you run off to see your teammates in a neighboring room and those kinds of things. And it's just a good set of guidelines to live by when you're traveling, because a lot of the kids, this is the first time they've traveled and they don't necessarily think too much about the security concerns that all parents might have to worry about.
Well, one of the things is when we have a large volume of different soccer teams there, it becomes, even at the hotel, it becomes one of those festival atmospheres. Sometimes it gets a little challenging for us and the unfortunate guests that are there, but the experience that it creates for the lifetime of the kids and for the parents also, that it's a #1 top-rate experience for them, having that critical mass of teams that are there, enjoying themselves, having a cocktail for the parents, playing cards, just hanging out, getting to know each other from all different aspects of your team.
So, what, besides soccer and besides the hotel and the other things, what other things can families do that sort of makes this a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? Do you have a whole lot of tourist attractions around the area that people do? Do you have a good relationship with the Convention and Visitors Bureau for bringing people in and making sure they've got things to keep them occupied between games?
So we have, at each one of our venues, we actually have what we call the Canton Cup Experience side of the tournament. One of the things that are very unique for us is we actually have inflatable amusements that are at each one of our venues. We have the different vendors, which are really set up almost like a carnival at each one of our sites. In addition to that, we do partner very well with the Canton, Michigan Leisure Services, and we have access to the Summit, which is our local recreation center, which is complimentary for all of our guests. There's many other things that we can do within Canton and within the immediate area for all of our guests.
So do you find people staying a little longer than just the event? Obviously, you've got the day after with Memorial Day where you have no games. Are people typically staying that extra day, or are they all rushing home to get back to school?
Honestly, that day, we really plan that day so that people can be with their families. For my team, that's the day that we take the tournament down, we clean up all of our venues around Canton, and we basically transform from what was a small village, which was housing upwards of 40 to 50,000 people per day, to back to the normal quiet parks and schools that we have around Canton. It's actually a pretty amazing transition
I bet, and a lot of work, I'm sure. I've done it on a much smaller scale with the tournament that I used to help run. Talking about size again, let's getting back to the sheer magnitude of this event, which continues to blow my mind. How long did it take you to get to that sort of critical mass? Presumably it was nowhere near that big when you started 33 years ago, but was it always the intention to make it a big event, or was it something that just happened over time as a consequence of
the intention never is about size. It's all about quality, and I think because of the quality of the tournament, the size came. I stand on the future work of all the other tournament directors, before me. John Vaughn, who was the tournament director directly before me, he had grown it up into the 500 team level, 600 team level. A lot of it is through watching the quality of the tournament and making sure we're taking care of the guest needs. We keep high rate, we make sure that we have highly qualified referees. We have a proprietary scheduling program where we took a look at some of the things that dissatisfied us about other tournaments, having games back to back, or having the last game on Friday and the first game on Saturday morning. Those sort of things that we felt really aren't fair to a lot of teams. So we make sure that we put into our scheduling program that type of restrictions. And since we have done that, we do have our proprietary scheduling system, we are also able to guarantee no conflicts for coaches that coach up to 3 teams.
Yeah, I noticed that on your website. So now that must be attractive for those clubs and teams who are bringing multiple teams. And again, when you're running a tournament of that size, I'd imagine a lot of that growth comes from the fact that you can attract some of those big clubs and say, hey, bring a dozen teams, and we'll give you. Do you give discounts for multiple team?
We do have some discounts. We have an early bird discount of $25 off the registration, and that runs until the end of January. With certain teams, depending on how many teams they bring, which clubs they bring the largest teams, we do extend that discount, further beyond if we, basically that's a tournament director's decision at that point.
And what is the software that you use in terms of scheduling?
We've developed it. So
really, you have your own proprietary system completely unique to you?
Yes.
Wow.
We have come up with this system over the years. We have a dedicated member that's been involved with the tournament a lot longer than I have. He has developed a system which will take our venues, take the available slots, and then based on all of these restrictions, it will schedule the tournament. Thank goodness we had that, because in my very first tournament, this was 4 or 5 years ago, we had an unprecedented amount of rain in Michigan. And in fact, the 40 days before the tournament, it rained for 38 of them. On Wednesday before the tournament, we received in Canton 4 inches of rain. I lost 21 fields. So we had to fully reschedule 1,300 games on Thursday night before the tournament. So without that proprietary software, it would have been impossible to do. And we still were able to maintain the lack of coaches' conflicts with all the reduced fields and everything else.
Wow, that's actually quite impressive, because obviously there's a lot of third-party software out there, the GotSoccers and the Demospheres of the world, but you found them wanting and your own system, frankly, necessary to run your event.
Yes.
Hello, Darryl. Okay, I missed that. I think we lost connection for a few moments.
Yeah, just for a little bit.
Yeah, okay, well, we'll keep going on. We can always edit those things out. So what we always do when we finish up, Darryl, we always have a selection of sort of quick-fire questions. And I'm just going to sort of throw these at you and see if you could just give us some insights into what you've gone through over the last few years of running your event. 1, looking back over the years, what has been your biggest challenge running the tournament, and how have you overcome it?
I just briefly mentioned it. My very first year as tournament director, we had 780 teams. And at that tournament was when we had the rain that hit the Wednesday beforehand. And it was only through the dedication of my volunteers and my committee, and as well as my extended volunteers, that we were able to pull off, a successful tournament.
And over the years, what have you accomplished that you're the most proud of in
I
terms of
think,
the general sort of success of the event?
I think the thing that I'm most proud of right now is taking the work that all of the tournament directors have done before me, and then taking and putting a system around that to standardize some of the things that we do and make it more of a repeatable process for us year over year, that then we can continue to tweak and grow and continue to focus on the high level of quality for our guests.
Yeah, that's interesting that you should say that, because I think so many tournaments are run really with the tournament director being the center of everything, and then if and when that tournament director leaves, it almost sometimes becomes the death of the tournament. I've literally seen that happen, a dozen different times, where a tournament director who's got charisma and knows all the ways that they do things suddenly decides they've had enough and it's time to move on, and suddenly no one knows how to do it. So that's an interesting point. I think systems is a big part of what I'm going through as we sort of try and grow our business, and seeing that that's something that's very important in the tournament space as well. That's an interesting insight. What has surprised you the most? What has surprised you about running this tournament?
Running this tournament and just dealing with how willing the volunteers are. We don't get paid for any of this, so the entire committee is 100% volunteer, and just the engagement and the 100% passion and commitment that they have to this tournament. I have people who are still part of the committee even though they have moved to Indiana, they've moved to Cleveland, they've moved to New Jersey, and they've moved to Texas. They come back year after year after year still to be a part of the tournament because of the love and passion that they have for this tournament. And so it humbles me to be able to have these people be so dedicated, and it keeps me on my toes because I'm responsible for caretaking of all this hard work.
That's amazing. I actually have never heard that before, where people are still involved long after they've left the area. I've certainly heard of people staying involved after their kids have moved on, but they still live in town. But I've never heard of people carrying on when they've actually moved away from the area. Now, how many people are on that committee, and how many people in general are running this event with you?
The committee itself is made up of like 26 to 30 people, and that expands to our overall volunteers of around 300 to 400 as we get closer to the tournament. The actual running of the sites, and it depends. The good thing about the system is we have a way of almost plugging and playing our different sites depending on how big the tournament is that year. We have our primary sites, which will always be filled, and then we have additional venues that we can bring online once we cross a certain threshold of teams and we need a certain number of game slots to run the tournament.
Now, when you say depending on how big it is that year, what are the kind of factors that are going to impact that? Because typically what we see with a tournament is it will grow and it will grow and it will grow until it reaches a certain capacity, and then it will stay at that capacity pretty much ad infinitum until something changes, new fields, fewer fields, what have you. But you're saying that your tournament actually is bigger some years than others, and then maybe the year after smaller again. What would drive that?
A lot of that is we generally have between 70 and 75% of our teams return each year, and then word of mouth and advertising will able to grow that. Sometimes teams just want to take a look at some of the other excellent tournaments that are out there. A lot of times they come back after the next year just because of the experience in that. Now, one thing that we are very, very fortunate here in Canton is we haven't reached the capacity of the fields yet. Current estimates have that somewhere around 800. I'm sure my committee would be very nervous if we're approaching that again.
We'll keep that between the two of us then.
Yes, please. But no, I mean, it really comes into the experience, right? So we have to work hard every year because we want to maintain that quality. And for us, we really see the size of the tournament based on the customer experience. When the customer experience is good, we stay or grow. We anticipate being higher than 650 this year because of the smoothness and the quality of the tournament last year.
I see. And obviously other factors like weather and those sorts of issues are going to have an impact on that. But how do you handle things like weather? You mentioned having lost fields on your first year, and that's always one of the biggest challenges, is how do you deal with the weather, and how do you make sure folks, albeit disappointed because of games being shortened or cancelled, still end up with a good positive experience?
The key there, I think, is number one, planning ahead of time. Do the what if scenarios. If it rains, what's going to happen? What are you going to do here or there? And then over communicating. The worst thing you can do is not communicate to your guests, because as soon as you stop communicating with them, what happens is the negative side of it seems to win. After we had the rain the last time, some social media was negative, but then it was really comforting to see all of the other people on social media coming in and actually defending the tournament. Because of the way that my committee and myself had communicated why things had to happen the way they did, we created an understanding of why the tournament was making the decision. So it was easier, not me saying it's easy, because people are, when those things happen, people are really disappointed.
Yeah.
That spring, I traveled to Nashville, I traveled to Indianapolis. Each one of those tournaments were canceled because of rain. It seemed that was just one of those years that we were going to see, an arc with animals going 2 by 2 right down the center of Michigan Avenue. But so we were trying our best to pull in the tournament, and with that and the communication of that to our guests, that allowed them to at least understand it, even if they weren't the happiest for it.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things that always plays into this is how good a relationship with the people who are actually the custodians of your fields. And that's one of the things I've seen in other tournaments where the fields were deemed unplayable by somebody outside of the tournament committee. They had no control over that, and all the players and the coaches and the parents were looking at the field saying, well, geez, we're from New Jersey, and they look perfectly playable to us, and that's often one of those challenges. Do you have good relationships with the folks who actually own the fields you play on?
We very much do. And that's one of the secrets of the Canton Soccer Club, is we have such a great relationship with the community of Canton, both our school district as well as our township, the Canton Leisure Services. We have been partners with them for the entire 33 years. In fact, our first tournament director is now our township supervisor here in Canton, which is very nice.
That helps, I'm sure.
It does.
Final question. If you could impart one piece of advice to someone who's just starting to run their first tournament, what would it be?
I would say first and foremost, focus on your guests. Focus on your guests' needs, and that you don't really have to make every decision based on the financial return. A lot of it is that return will come, right? Based on it, you want to be appropriate, but you don't want to be overly frugal. And the reason is you want to have that guest to have that experience, that they have a positive outcome of your tournament, and it won't be just another, we're going to go play some soccer games here and we happen to be in the tournament. You got to do something to differentiate yourself.
So if you take care of your guests, the finances will take care of themselves, isn't that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, excellent. Hey, Darryl, it's been a real pleasure. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us, and I'm absolutely certain that many of the things you've talked about here are going to be useful and helpful to our listeners. So thank you for that. Darryl, Noel, everybody, we're happy to wish him the best of luck with his upcoming tournament, the Canton Cup. Thanks very much.
Yep, we look forward to having you as our guest at the 2015 Canton Cup. Go to www.cantoncup.net for information. We'll have our 2015 registration open here in December. Hope to see you soon.
Sounds great. Thanks very much, Darryl.
Thank you.